Use the back door. Camille doesn't want you to ruin her moment. That was the first thing my mother said when she called. Not, "Hi, Evelyn," not, "Are you back safe?" Just that. I'd landed at Andrews Air Force Base barely 12 hours before, still had desert dust in my boots and bruises on my ribs from a collapsed hallway in Aleppo. But none of that mattered to my mother. To her, I wasn't Evelyn Hartley, covert field commander, crisis negotiator, intelligence asset. I was just the older sister who made things complicated. I had just returned from saving 31 lives, 27 hostages, 4 children, in a mission no one would ever read about. Not in the Post, not in her polished Georgetown tea circles. My name wouldn't be printed, and maybe that's why she thought I didn't matter. "Wear something nice," she added. "Don't bring up that Langley nonsense, and please don't wear those boots." That last part almost made me laugh. Those boots had run across rooftops in Kabul. They'd knelt beside bleeding allies, but to her, they were a social embarrassment. She didn't know I'd spent the night before in a military safe house eating rehydrated lentils and bandaging a shrapnel wound on my own leg. I didn't tell her. What was the point? She hadn't asked. I hung up without saying much. My hands were still shaking, not from trauma, not from exhaustion, but from that familiar icy cocktail of shame and bitterness, the kind only family can brew just right. Have you ever been treated like a ghost by the people who were supposed to love you the most? If so, keep listening. Not all revenge stories start with shouting or slammed doors. Some begin with silence and end with someone finally saying your name out loud. That Saturday, I drove to my family's estate in PTOAC, Maryland. Not through the main gate, but the gravel side path lined with overgrown hedges. The help used that path. So did deliveries. And now apparently so did I. The parking area was full. Luxury cars, Blacktown cars, press badges hanging off rear-view mirrors. Camille's big day, her new role in the State Department, her rising star moment. I parked next to the recycling bins where the smell of seafood waste mingled with stale champagne. I checked my reflection in the mirror, no makeup, hair tied back, black blouse, slacks, and, yes, the boots. My boots. I walked toward the back door, not because I was told to, but because part of me believed maybe that's all I deserved. When I stepped inside, the smell hit me first. Lobster puffs, truffle oil, cinnamon. It smelled like money, like exclusivity, like a world that had long voted me off the island. And then I heard her voice, my mother. "Good, you're here." No hug, no smile, no warmth, just a glance and a nod, like checking off a list. "Put your gift on the table and don't cause a scene." Right, because I was the problem. The moment I stepped into that ballroom, I knew exactly who I was. Not a guest, not family, not even background noise. I was a prop, one they didn't want but had to tolerate. The room shimmered with navy suits, cocktail dresses, and practiced smiles. Glasses clinked like wind chimes in a storm. The walls were covered in custom signage. "Congratulations, Camille," with photos of her shaking hands with mayors, senators, and that one White House intern everyone pretended to recognize. I stayed near the corner, close to the gift table, like a ghost. Then I heard her voice, Camille, bright, clear, sharpened just enough to cut. "Oh, there you are. Everyone. This is my sister Evelyn. She, works at Langley, some kind of desk job, I think." And just like that, the whole room laughed. That careful, educated, cut-you-with-a-smile laughter. It wasn't the joke that stung. It was the familiarity. Like they'd all been told behind closed doors, "Don't mind Evelyn. She never really figured things out." And I smiled. That same brittle smile I'd worn since I was 23. The smile that says, "I'm fine, I don't mind, don't worry about me." Someone offered me a glass of champagne. I declined. My hands were already full, with memories I didn't ask for. A woman I didn't know leaned over and whispered, "So what do you really do?" I save lives, I said flatly. She blinked. Oh, like a nurse? I didn't answer. What was the point? Across the room, my father raised a glass to someone. He gave me a nod. Political, not paternal, as if he were acknowledging a reporter or a waiter. Nothing in his eyes said daughter. And I don't know why this part got me, but it did. Camille was wearing my grandmother's brooch, the one she promised I'd inherit. They didn't just replace me, they rewrote me out. You ever been in a room full of people who share your blood and feel like the only one who didn't get the memo? If that's ever happened to you, I think you know the exact weight of that silence. Say something below. Not for me, but maybe for someone else scrolling at 2 a.m, wondering if they're the only one, because you're not. I needed air. I slipped out the back, past the laughter and clinking glasses, and stepped onto the patio. For a second I let myself breathe. The air was cold, crisp, autumn heavy, and silent. Then I saw it. By the terrace door, propped between a planter and the frame, was a folded American flag. David's flag, the one they handed me at his funeral. The one I left in my parents' care because I thought they'd honour it. They were using it as a doorstop. My heart stopped. I bent down and picked it up, fingers trembling. The wool was coarse, thick, the seams slightly frayed. I remembered holding this flag when I still smelled like fire and blood and grief. David died, pulling me out of a crumbling safe house. And this was where his memory ended up, under a door, holding it open for party guests. I clutched it to my chest and walked back inside, not into the ballroom. No. I turned down the left hallway, the one no one used anymore, and slipped into my father's library. It hadn't changed in years. Dark wood, leather-bound books, mahogany shelves, every inch polished. Legacy, that's what this room was about. Photos of Camille with governors, my brother in his dress blues, framed letters from senators and generals, and then I saw the family portrait, the one from when I was 14. We'd all worn navy. Even the dog had a bow tie. But the version hanging on the wall now, I wasn't in it. The frame had been cut, clean, surgical. Where I used to stand, there was nothing but grass and a sliver of stone. I stared at that empty patch like it might speak, might explain. I remembered asking about it once years ago. Aunt Carol had laughed. "Oh, honey, your mum just got a smaller frame. You didn't fit." I didn't fit. That sentence lived somewhere deep inside me, like a buried landmine I just stepped on again. Not dramatic, not explosive, but lethal. And in that moment, surrounded by polished mahogany and the scent of expensive varnish, I finally let the truth settle. They didn't forget me. They removed me. On purpose. Have you ever looked at a photo and realised it used to hold your face, and now it doesn't? That kind of silence doesn't echo, it swallows. There was one Christmas I'll never forget, not because of what happened, but because of what didn't. It was snowing in DC that year. I saw it on Instagram. My sister Camille had posted a photo of the fireplace at home, everyone in matching pyjamas. Mum with her perfect curls, Dad holding the family dog like it meant something. The caption read, "Family is everything, just wish everyone was here." I was the everyone, and I was not there. I was halfway around the world in a crumbling safe house outside Mosul, eating a protein bar in the dark, watching a grainy feed of a hostage chained to a radiator. That night, Operation Starlight fell apart before it even began. Bad intel, double-crossed informant. We lost 2 of ours, David and Mark, and I came back with 3rd-degree burns down my arm and a knife wound just below my collarbone. No medal, no debrief, just nightmares, silence, and the dull ache of what now? I spent 3 nights in a motel off I-95, patching myself up. No mirrors, no doctors, just rubbing alcohol and grit. That motel smelled like bleach and regret. And then, on night 4, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called home. The phone rang 3 times. Dad picked up. His voice was flat, like a business call. "Evelyn, you still doing that nameless job of yours?" "I'm back stateside," I said quietly. When are you going to settle down and get a real career? No, are you okay? No, where have you been? No, I'm glad you're safe." I remember sitting there, hand frozen, phone still against my ear, heart thudding like I'd just run 5 miles. I didn't answer. I just clicked the call off. And the silence after that was louder than anything I'd heard in combat. Do you know that kind of silence? The kind where even the walls seem to turn their backs on you? That moment was when something inside me cracked. Not anger, not bitterness, just detachment. Like watching yourself from outside your body and realizing they don't see you because they never tried to. They were proud of Camille, even when she failed, but I could risk my life on foreign soil and still be an embarrassment. A week after the silence, my phone rang. Richard Hartley, my father. He never called, not for birthdays, not after deployments, not even when I was injured in Yemen. I stared at the name on the screen for a long second before answering. His voice was unnaturally warm, syrupy. "Evelyn, sweetheart, how have you been?" I almost laughed. Sweetheart? I let him talk. He mentioned Camille. Her latest bill was heading to the Senate floor. He asked if I still had connections to Senator Peterson, the swing vote. I did. I'd once led his security detail during a high-risk diplomatic mission. I'd saved his wife from an assassination attempt. But my father didn't know that. He didn't ask. He just said, "We were hoping you could put in a word for the family." For the family. The same one that edited me out of photos. The same one that used David's flag as a doorstop. Now they wanted me to speak up, just not about myself. I said I'd see what I could do. 2 days later, Mom invited me to lunch at the Hay Adams. Fancy hotel, old money crowd. She wore pearls and navy tweed. I wore doubt. For 20 minutes, we danced around nothing. Then she leaned in and smiled with her teeth, not her eyes. "You owe it to this family, Evelyn. After all we gave you, your name, your education, and all you ever did was chase shadows." I stirred my coffee. "You mean the ones I chased so Camille could sleep peacefully?" She didn't flinch. That night Camille came to my motel, a bottle of Cabernet in hand and a rehearsed smile. "Let's not fight. I came to offer you something real. A job, a desk, health insurance, a business card with the Hartley name again." I refused. She paused, her smile cracked. "Then don't blame me." 3 days later, a smear article appeared. CIA recklessness, hero or hazard. The source was anonymous, but the fingerprints were obvious. It came from my family, but this time I didn't break. Because the same week I got another call from Langley. They wanted me to speak at the National Security Policy Summit, the kind of event with generals, cabinet members, the press. I accepted. I wore my uniform. No makeup, no apologies, just me. And when I stepped onto that stage, the lights didn't blind me. They freed me. I opened with facts. I told truths no one wanted on paper. I spoke names that had been forgotten. And then, from the front row, someone stood. CIA Director Kenneth Lowell. He nodded once and said into the mic, "Madam Speaker Hartley, your leadership has saved more lives than this room will ever know. Welcome back." The room went silent. Then the applause rose like a wave. Cameras flashed. And in the 5th row, my family sat frozen. Camille's face was pale. My mother lowered her eyes. My father's jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. I didn't look away. I just smiled, not brittle, not forced, but real. The kind of smile that says, "You don't get to define me anymore." That night, I drove back to the house in PTOAC one last time. Not because I missed it, not because I needed closure, but because I refused to let them keep what wasn't theirs to hold. David's flag sat folded in the seat beside me, cradled like a final promise. When I pulled into the driveway, the lights were on. The party was long over, but they were all still there, waiting, like they'd known I'd come, like this was their moment to flip the script again. The living room was quiet, no champagne, no music, just the cold tension of a family that didn't know what to say when the scapegoat finally stood up straight. Camille sat on the edge of the couch, mascara smudged, eyes swollen. Mum stood near the fireplace, stiff as marble. Dad leaned against the mantel, arms crossed, face unreadable. He spoke first. "You destroyed everything." I didn't flinch. "No," I said, calm. "You did. I just turned on the lights." Mum stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "Evelyn, I didn't know." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You didn't want to." And that silence. It hit harder than any argument could. She blinked once. Her lips trembled, but no words came. I turned to Camille. She looked up at me like a stranger. "I don't hate you," I told her, "but I can't have you in my life." She nodded slowly. No defense, no defiance. Maybe for the first time, she understood. I walked to the old coffee table, the one where they used to lay out Christmas cookies, where I once built Lego forts while they sipped bourbon and ignored me. I set David's flag on top. I placed it inside a shadow box, black wood, clean glass, sealed shut. Then I reached into my coat pocket and took out something small and cold, the house key. I laid it gently on the table beside the flag. The sound it made, that soft metallic click, it was the sound of chains breaking. "This is the last time I'll be here," I said, and I walked out. No door slam, no final look over my shoulder, just the sound of my boots on marble, steady and free. Months passed. I moved to the Blue Ridge Mountains. Quiet mornings, a small cabin with a porch and real air. I still worked for the agency, but now I trained the next generation, not in tactics, but in something deeper, compassion, integrity, deciding who you are before the world tries to do it for you. One morning a letter arrived, no return address, but I knew the handwriting. Camille. Inside was a single sheet, a formal transfer request. She was leaving DC voluntarily. At the bottom she wrote, "I'm learning to find my own light. Thank you for showing me the dark." I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not out of spite, not out of triumph, but peace. And that maybe was the real victory. Have you ever had to walk away from people you once begged to notice you, not to win, just to breathe again? If this hit something in you, I'd like to hear it. Not for me, but maybe for the next person scrolling at 1 a.m. thinking they're the only one. You're not.